You know, Donald Trump Jr. is trying to make a buck off of this tragic incident that happened on the set of the movie Rust, an Alec Baldwin movie, and he's out there selling T-shirts that's saying "Guns don't kill people. Alec Baldwin kills people." And Donald Trump Jr. is selling the shirt after Baldwin fired a prop gun on a movie set and killed a cinematographer. Baldwin fired the prop gun on the set of Rust last Thursday after reportedly being told it was not loaded. Trump Jr., the son of the former president, is selling the shirts on his website for $27.99 in three colors: black, blue, and military green. So, and of course, you know, he's going after Baldwin because Baldwin brilliantly portrayed his father on SNL. And, you know, they are trying to do everything they can to make Baldwin's life as miserable as possible. So, you know, what can you expect from these guys? You know, Donald Trump Jr. I used to think a little bit more of that guy, but since he became a part of this madness, it's pretty despicable. And I think people have been going out and flaming on him for deciding to try and do this and make money off of this tragic incident. Speaking of which, I'm going to talk about this. This is again, the tragic incident is a death on a set. And like I said at the beginning, deaths are pretty controlled environments. But what happens on sets is not all sets are created equal. And part of the factors that are involved is how much money the production has and whether it has professionals on there. And usually your professionals are going to be unions. I mean, it is what it is. You know, because of the nature of unions, if you've been working in the industry in the highest levels for long enough, you're going to have to be in the union because you can't continue to work non-union. You literally have to be. I mean, that's actors. We talked about IATSE last time. That's IATSE. That is DPs. That is, DPs, which are IATSE. That's WGA, who are writers as well as directors. So let's go over a little bit. I want to go over a little bit what happened, and I want to talk about a little bit of the history of on-set accidents, because it is something to really. These things, when they do happen, you have to call into question what is happening right now in the industry that would allow these things to happen. Because once they happen, there's usually a no more sort of thing. There are usually guidelines put in. There are usually, laws set. There are usually, the union and all of these groups create protocols to prevent this from happening. And I'm just going to say it. One of the things we know about conservatives is that they hate laws. They hate what is it? They call them, they hate the rules. They hate the attempts to create, I can't think, the word is escaping me, but basically regulation. That's the word I'm looking for. They hate regulations. And basically what you're talking about is regulation. You're talking about creating a situation where you're not allowed to do whatever the hell that you want. And we know that Republicans basically hate regulations, right? They hate vaccine mandates. They hate mandates. And what's a mandate other than a regulation or a law that forces you to do something that you may not want to do, but you have to do? That's what Republicans can't stand. And there's a reason why these regulations are there. There's a reason why these rules are there. There's a reason why there are certain things that are done the way that they are. But, so basically, I think I pretty much covered what happened in that last read up. Baldwin is handling a prop gun. He is told, and I think that much of the reporting now is pretty much solid, that he's told that the prop gun is a cold gun. It's not loaded. He fires the gun and he strikes the cinematographer and the director. The cinematographer is struck dead. She doesn't die until later on, but she's struck in the stomach. I think that there is a reporting. She was struck in the stomach and complained of stomach pain. after the discharge. The director himself was shot, I think, in the shoulder or something like that. He was discharged out of the hospital, I think, he was rushed to the hospital and discharged the same day. The DP was airlifted, Helena Hutchinson, airlifted to the nearest trauma center, I'm sure, and she died of her injuries there. A spokesperson for the production said the accident involved misfire of a prop gun with blanks. Production has been halted for the time being. The safety of the cast and crew remains our top priority, the statement said. Firearms accidents on Hollywood sets are extremely rare, but they do occur. And this is not uncommon, right? The entire cast and crew has been absolutely devastated by today's tragedy, and we send our deepest condolences to Helena's family and loved ones. We have halted production on the film for an undetermined period of time. We are fully cooperating with the Santa Fe Police Department's investigation. We will be providing counseling for services to anyone connected with the film as we work to process this awful event. As I mentioned, people talk about firearm accidents, and I think when people talk about firearm accidents, they usually think of Brandon Lee, who was the son of Bruce Lee, who on the set of The Crow, which had a lot of shooting going on, was shot by a gun that was supposed to be have blanks, was shot and killed by the I don't know who it is that actually shot the gun, but was shot and killed by that prop gun. But movie sets are dangerous places, and I think it's important to recognize that, and it's important to understand that there is a history here, Brandon Lee's history, but you can go even further back. The set of the Twilight Zone movie, director John Landis, was put on trial in 1980 for involuntary manslaughter for an on-set accident that killed the actor Vic Morrow, as well as child stewards Micah Din Lee and Renee Chen. He was found not guilty, but a number of steps were taken to make sure sets were safer places. So this is one of the things, like I say, these kinds of, when we talk about steps being taken, what they mean is new protocols, new systems of dealing with, making sure that these sets are safer, and that there are certain things that prop masters, or what they call armorers, who deal with the guns, have to make sure that they do, and that they adhere to. One of the things that's being focused on right now with a laser is the armorer. How skilled was this person? How much training did they have? Again, this was a low budget production. As I said earlier, the two factors are unions and the budget. If you have low budget productions, which are totally viable productions, and you might not have somebody who has the kind of years of experience that a production with a bigger budget might have, that have union. The union, by the way, immediately disavowed this whole thing and looked to the call sheet and said that this person who was in the armor was not a union member. And by the way, this was shot in New Mexico. So you have to also wonder, what are the laws in New Mexico that are happening? And, not for nothing, but a lot of these things are happening outside of Hollywood, outside of California. More and more production is moving outside of California. They're moving to New Mexico, to Florida. They've, been in New York for many, many years. But there's some of these newer places, these southern places like your Tennessees, your Georgias, and those kind of places, South Carolina, North Carolina. They are not about regulations and about creating laws and creating the kind of structure that you would need to make sure that people are safe. They're like, our hands are off, you guys go ahead and do this. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of productions like going to these other places. It's cheaper, and one of the reasons why it's cheaper is because there's less regulation of a lot of these things. And to me, the biggest story in recent history is the story of Sarah Jones. And it is a harrowing story of how a, onset tragedy. Now, unlike this Rust situation, this was pure negligence on the part of this production. 100% pure negligence. And that negligence cost the life of an assistant camera. This is 2014. And in that case, the crew tried to film a scene on a working train track when in the middle of the shoot, a train came barreling down. 27-year-old Jones was killed by the train. A makeup artist's arm was broken. And, the movie was Midnight Rider. It was in Georgia, Doctortown, Georgia. And it was, and I'm just going to read a little bit, and then there is a video here, which, I don't know if I'm running for my life, the first thing I'm going to do is going to pull out a camera and start videoing. But there is video of the seconds before this. Now, this is the Hollywood Reporter. Let me see if I want to make sure that I'm on the right page. I'm not seeing images, but basically, let me come back and take a look, make sure. But this is there is video of this accident as it happens, but I want to discuss a little bit of this as it went down, because it is so disturbing. And one of the things I want to say is that it was director Randy Miller. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison after this, and he served only half of that and was released in probation in 2016. The producer and unit production manager, Jay Sedrich, was also indicted and entered an Alford plea and was hit with a 10-year probation and a $10,000 fine. Tried separately, first AD, assistant director Hillary Schwartz, was sentenced to 10 years probation and a $5,000 penalty. Under the terms of their deals, Miller, Sedrich, and Schwartz can't serve as directors or assistant directors for a decade. Now, surprise, surprise, this guy, Randy Miller, is caught directing a film just recently. And apparently he's saying that under his deal, he was supposed to direct. But according to the LA Times, he was caught directing in 2020 another film. So, and it goes into, this is a guy who does not believe that the law and the rules apply to him, in my view. I mean, give me a break. You get probation and your first instinct is to go back and start working again as a director after this young lady was killed. But let me go back a little bit more into what happened, because this the hairstylist really in this THR interview really goes into a great deal of detail, really stunning detail as to what she experienced. But they're on this train, they're on this 110-year-old bridge trestle over the river in Wayne County, a wild, untamed land full of rivers, Spanish moss, and gnats. As soon as I got to the location, I started feeling funny, she said during a series of interviews. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel safe there. This is, again, Joyce Gillard. She's a 42-year-old, at this time, 42-year-old hairstylist who worked on Midnight Rider. And she's there. Jones, already known for the local production community as an indefatigable worker with cheery disposition, this is the assistant camera, apparently didn't reveal any concerns to co-workers. But her father, Richard Jones, said that in a phone conversation the night before she died, his daughter told him she was nervous about a few things. He said she was a little bit surprised about it being low budget. She made a comment that some of the people asking her questions should have known more than her, and she thought that was odd. The day she died, says her father, was the first on the set. As a barefoot hurt paced, rehearsing his lines, Gillard watched nervously. She was responsible for the actor's hair, and as the wind picked up, she darted in and out of shots before retreating behind cameras where she traded small talk with Jones. Da 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 da. So they make their way onto the tracks, and they're not told, by the way, that this track is live. They're told that it says, as the day wore on, director Randall Miller moved the shoot from the land beside the river onto the narrow gridwork of the trestle itself, which extends over the edge of the river. The trestle's wood and metal bottom was covered with pebbles and had gaping holes in some places. The blistery wind ran through the girders, making it hard to stay steady. From the shore, several dozen yards away, a voice shouted to the crew that in the event a train appeared, everyone would have 60 seconds to clear the tracks. Everybody on the crew was tripping over that, says Gillard. A minute? Are you serious? By now, she and two other crew members were nervous enough that before the shooting, they gathered in an informal prayer, saying, Lord, please protect us on these tracks, murmured Gillard. Surround us with your angels and help us, Lord. While Gillard prayed, Jones helped load film, monitor the cameras, and transport gear. A fresh-faced South Carolinian with a passion for travel and books, Jones wasn't really the type to fret much. The 2 stories high, Okay. The crew was filming a dream sequence, and they had placed a twin-size metal-framed bed and mattress on the middle of the tracks. Then Gillard looked up and saw a light in the distance, followed by an immense howl of a locomotive. It was a train, and it was hurtling towards them. 2 stories high, screaming with the sound of a blast of a horn and possibly brakes. The train was nearly as wide as the trestle. Gillard says Miller yelled to everyone to run. Jones, several bags slung over her shoulder, shouted something about what to do with the expensive equipment. Drop it, Gillard said. Just drop it. The only viable escape route to the closest shore lay running towards the approaching train, now traveling by one estimate almost 60 miles an hour. Gillard tried to make her way onto the metal gangplank parallel to the tracks. Miller and another crew member began tugging the bed, trying to remove it from the tracks, fearing it might cause a derailment. But as the train approached, Gillard said they abandoned their efforts. Before Gillard knew it, the train was upon her. She found herself clinging to one of the girders, but the blast of pressure and wind from the train's passing ripped Gillard's left arm away from her body and straight into the train. It snapped like a stick, with one hand still on the girder. Gillard looked down and saw bone sticking out of her sweater, and then she saw blood. She grabbed a sheet that had come loose from the mattress and wrapped her bleeding arm inside it. With the train howling past her just inches behind her, Gillard threw herself onto 2 metal wires that stretched between the girders and along the gangplank, thrust her head out over the river below, and shut her eyes. I saw my life, my kids, my family, all of it before me. I was sure I was going to die. One of the first things she saw when she opened her eyes again was lifeless Jones, her body and face mangled. Like Gillard, Jones had tried to find shelter on the gangplank, but when the train hit the bed and mattress, it sent debris flying. Something may have hit Jones, possibly propelling her into the train's path. In the melee, Miller also fled on the tracks. A still photographer nearby managed to pull him away just in time. He was sobbing, Gillard said, trying to cope with the disaster. Hurt also survived. This is William Hurt. Also survived unscathed. The traumatized crew helped collect Jones's body. A team of paramedics arrived within 20 minutes. Helicopter touchdown shortly after. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And again, a set can be a very a safe place if folks sit back and they actually adhere to the rules of the set and don't try and do stupid stuff. I am going to play here. I have this video, which is why I'm not Pardon me for not looking into camera, but I have a piece of video here. Okay, can't bring it up. Can't bring it up, and I cannot find. I should have at least had the video from where I had that. Hold on a second. This is normally I wouldn't spend this time because we're basically out of time, but I really want to show this video. It comes from Variety, and again, I don't know who has the time to sort of click on a video or to shoot a video and shoot a video as they're running for their lives, but there is somebody who actually had this video ready to go, and unfortunately it was caught the life of this poor young woman. But it just goes down to show you, and I'm going to go into in a minute what is happening in terms of what the what people are saying about this armorer and what people know. One of the things that we do know is that Alec Baldwin is distraught, as well as anyone would be, because of course he didn't expect this to happen. He didn't want this to happen. But here it is. Now watch, I don't have audio. So that's what it's like. That's what happened to the crew. That's what happened where we saw a young woman lose her life, a first AC lose her life. That's what happens when you take risks. This was pure negligence, as opposed to Rust, which again was an accident from Alec Baldwin's standpoint. However, the question is now, what do we know about the armorer? Was this a person who really should not have been there? There is some information on that person. And again, like I said, this is the union said a New Mexico crew member staffed the props, set decorations, special effects, construction department on Rust, not its members. Props is IATSE. So the union that you become, if you want to be a prop master or an armorer or on this, it's IATSE. But as in this case, because it was a low budget project, the prop master was not a union member. According to IATSE, who apparently immediately did an investigation onto this, as well they should. A single live round was accidentally fired on the set by principal actor Alec Baldwin, hitting the director of photography, local member Helena Hutchinson, who is a union member, is a part of the IATSE, and director Joel Souza. The union told the members both were rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, we lost Sister Hutchins, who passed away from the wound. So this is the union really going out and getting out ahead of this story, which is probably pretty smart for them, because the props are under their purview, and they immediately wanted to give their opinion on what they knew and what they'd heard. So that's important. Alec Baldwin has gone on Twitter appropriately and said that he's cooperating. As reported by the Daily Beast, Helena Hutchins, 42, local member, was reportedly struck in the stomach and was airlifted. And director Joel Souza, 48, was said to have been wounded. Baldwin released a statement. There are no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Helena Hutchins, a wife, mother, and deeply admired colleague of ours. I'm fully cooperating with police investigation to address this tragedy. Toby Bay is a prop artist, a prop and set artist by training, and the business agent for IATSE Local 44 told the Daily Beast, Hollywood prop masters will only put the amount of blanks into a gun that are meant to be shot in that scene. They're pretty strict. They always yell out, "Gun is hot," before they hand it over to the actor. There are only two major armorers in Los Angeles that provide modified prop guns for the entire country, he said, and a proper round would not work in any of those guns. I don't know where this gun could have come from, if it came from a private owner, and if it wasn't fitted for entertainment industry weaponry. That's a possibility, but I have no clue. Richard Howell of Foxtrot Productions said ultimately the responsibility for what went wrong rests on the film's armorer, who oversees all of the weaponry on the set. It's not yet known which armorer company had been hired for Rust. It's up to that armorer company to prepare the firearms a day or two before and fire them to make sure everything is okay and the blanks rounds are okay, explained Howell, who has 30 years of experience in film armory. In film and TV, it's a very controlled environment. You have to do risk assessment. So that was actually from a few days ago. What we know today, however, I'm going to see what the new news is as of this moment. But I mean, it's sort of just flowing out, all the news. I am going to. This is from People Magazine, and it says that. Let me just get. It says that the gun that shot and killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins and injured director Joel Souza on the set of Alec Baldwin's film Rust was previously used by crew members for target practice, TMZ reports. Sources connected to the production tell the outlet that the prop gun had been used recreationally for target practice away from the set prior to the deadly shooting. On Thursday, authorities responded to the incident at Rust around 1:50 p.m. local time following 911 calls indicating an individual had been shot on the set. Upon further investigation, the sheriff's department learned that Hutchins and Souza were shot when a prop firearm was discharged by Baldwin. Hutchins was airlifted, as I've already noted, and I talked about IATSE. So, the set has been shut down. The entire cast has been absolutely devastated. We have halted productions. Indicated that earlier. So, I mean, more and more is leaking out about this gun and about the fact. And as I just read, according to this armorer who's been in the business for years, a prop gun could not fire regular rounds or regular guns. The way that they're designed and the way that they're meant to be and the way that they're meant to work, it would be impossible for the gun to work and to shoot a live round and kill somebody, as indicated. So, he was told it was a cold gun. Let me go to this here. This is Baldwin coming out and making statements that he was told the gun was cold. This is out of Forbes. Court documents released late Sunday paint a more detailed picture of what happened on the New Mexico set of Rust last week, including reassurances that the gun in question had no ammunition when Baldwin fired it. Baldwin was assured the prop firearm was a cold gun, meaning that it did not contain ammunition, by the assistant director who handed it to him before he shot it, according to interviews in an affidavit released by the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department. Cameraman Reed Russell told authorities Baldwin, who is also one of the movie's producers, was very careful with guns on set. And when previously filming a scene with a firearm, Baldwin had ensured children weren't around and made sure the area was safe. Cameras were not rolling when Hutchins and Souza were shot, as they were rehearsing a scene, though a search warrant shows that investigators plan to seize all video content captured so far for the movie, as well as all computer hardware equipment. Baldwin was handed the gun from Assistant Director Dave Halls, which was one of the three firearms that were set up for the rehearsal by armorer Hannah Gutierrez, and Hall said that he was not aware the gun was live when he gave it to Baldwin. Though a half dozen crew members have walked off the set to protest poor working conditions hours before the shooting. Souza told investigators that everyone was getting along and that there weren't any altercations. Souza told investigators that there should never be live rounds whatsoever near or around the scene. No charges have been filed related to the incident so far. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department said that the shooting remains an open, active investigation. A news conference will be held on Wednesday